between Harry and William, and actually just the feud that Meghan and Harry have with the palace in general, couldn't get any worse. It would involve the one person William has spent his entire life protecting, and that is his mother, Princess Diana.
Global news outlets are reeling after a major official statement was suddenly dropped by the Sussex office in sunny California. This is no longer just a rumour printed in the gossip columns. Prince Harry has officially confirmed he is flying back to the United Kingdom this July to front some massive promo events marking the countdown to the Invictus Games Birmingham 2027. Yet what really has Buckingham Palace completely blindsided and has left the British public feeling deeply unsettled is not just his sudden return. No, it is the exact location he handpicked to kick off this massive promotional blitz, Villa Park Stadium in Birmingham. See if you know anything about the tense politics inside the royal family. Villa Park is not just some famous sports arena or a historic football ground up in the English Midlands. To Prince William, that stadium is a deeply personal sanctuary, an emotional safe haven that has always belonged to him alone. Ever since he was a young boy trying to survive the crushing grief of losing his mother, right up to becoming the Prince of Wales. William has kept Aston Villa Football Club incredibly close to his heart. It is a genuine, raw passion, totally detached from all the stuffy rules of the crown. So for Harry to deliberately choose Villa Park for what looks like a fake royal tour, with American camera crews capturing every single move, is seen by palace insiders as an open, hostile act of extreme provocation. It is a sharp arrow shot directly into his older brother's most vulnerable spot. This aggressive power move is unfolding against a highly tense backdrop, right when the deep cracks inside the royal family are being pushed to an absolute breaking point by a controversial decision from King Charles III. Insiders reveal that Prince William and Catherine, the beloved Princess of Wales, are putting up their fiercest resistance yet against the King's latest orders, even while dealing with his own serious health battles, and driven by the very human ache of a lonely grandfather who just wants to see his grandkids after a 4-year estrangement. The King is personally paying the massive bills for private armed security and royal lodgings for Harry and Meghan during this next trip. Word is this huge financial concession is coming straight from the King's personal money, totally bypassing any discussion or agreement with other senior working royals, especially the Prince and Princess of Wales. William and Catherine's intense anger does not come from petty jealousy, but from a deep feeling of institutional betrayal and real fear about the survival of the crown itself. To William, using royal wealth to fund someone who has spent years tearing down the family's public reputation on the global stage looks like total weakness. It completely breaks the historic Sandringham deal made by the late Queen Elizabeth II. That deal set a clear, unbreakable rule: you simply cannot be half in and half out. You cannot just quit your national duties, move to California to sell your titles for massive 9-figure media deals, and then expect high-level state security and royal pampering whenever your personal brand needs a little palace magic. William and Catherine feel that their own tireless dedication, their quiet daily service, and their constant efforts to stabilise the monarchy, especially during a brutal year where Catherine publicly and bravely battled cancer, are being pushed aside by the King just to host a heavily staged family reunion designed by the Sussexes. Still, even with these intense battles raging behind closed palace doors, Prince William has shown yet again why people call him the Iron Shield, protecting the modern royal family. Being completely aware of the heavy duties that come with being next in line, William has kept up a completely calm face of quiet dignity and careful restraint. Even while facing a massive wave of frantic questions from reporters about his brother, the Prince of Wales has kept an absolute unbreakable silence. There have been no angry clapbacks, no public airing of dirty laundry, and not even a tiny hint of anger. This quiet silence from William is a true display of sovereign power. He simply refuses to let the serious business of the crown get dragged down into a messy Hollywood reality show. Instead, he just keeps showing up at soccer games, charity events, and local communities projecting absolute unwavering calm, letting his steady, quiet work completely drown out the noisy, dramatic stunts coming from the Sussex camp. This solid behaviour points directly to a massive, glaring double standard in what Prince Harry is doing right now. Just a few short months back, deliberate leaks sent from California painted a very sad picture of a lonely, isolated Duke of Sussex living quietly in his massive Montecito estate, supposedly sitting by the phone waiting for a call from London, desperate for any small sign of forgiveness from his big brother. People close to Harry claimed back then that he was feeling incredibly guilty, fully aware of the deep, painful wounds caused by his book Spare and his controversial Netflix show. Everyone was left wondering if the two brothers might finally find a way to make peace. But today, the cold reality of the situation reveals a very different, highly calculating truth. Where did all that supposed guilt go? What happened to his humility turning Villa Park, the one place that holds deep personal meaning for his brother, into a launchpad for a massive, aggressive publicity campaign? This is simply not how a brother acts when he wants to quietly heal a family rift. A calculated psychological blow aimed right at William. It proves that when forgiveness is not handed over on Harry's strict terms, and when emotional guilt trips fail to break the steady air, the Sussexes will immediately go right back to their old media warfare playbook. This massive gap between Harry's sweet public image and his harsh strategic moves has sparked some incredibly angry debates all over Great Britain. This upcoming July event at Villa Park is no longer about supporting injured veterans or doing charity work. It has officially turned into a massive commercial declaration of war aimed right at the Prince of Wales. While Prince Harry continues to play this confusing game of mixed signals and hidden motives, switching constantly between fake apologies and open rebellion, Meghan Markle's own plan is clear as day and completely cold. The massive difference in how the two behave has never been more obvious than in how they are handling their next big British media projects. For months and months, Harry let his PR team drop quiet hints to the Hollywood media that he was really struggling with the heavy burden of being so isolated. He willingly let the press run wild with stories of a homesick prince, a guy desperately searching for redemption and hoping for any sign of peace from Kensington Palace. But the very second those stories failed to drag Prince William to the negotiating table, the mask slipped away, instantly replaced by the cold corporate staging of that Villa Park announcement. Harry keeps things vague as a deliberate tactic to keep the palace off balance while hiding the cash crunch at home. Meghan Markle, on the other hand, has zero time for games. Her entire focus is laser-targeted on keeping the Sussex brand alive and profitable, and her latest direct demands have sent massive shockwaves straight through the royal household. Right at the absolute centre of this dramatic new escalation is Meghan's blunt demand to reclaim and show off one of the most sacred heirlooms in the world, the legendary diamond and sapphire ring that came directly from the personal estate of Princess Diana. After Diana's tragic death, her private jewellery collection was split up. The goal was to let both of her sons give their future wives a real physical piece of their mother's lasting legacy. Prince William famously slipped that iconic sapphire engagement ring onto Catherine's finger, while Harry used some loose diamonds from his mother's personal collection to design a custom ring for Meghan. Things boiled over when Meghan let it slip through production sources that she wanted to wear her specific piece of Diana's jewellery. She planned to make it a massive visual focus in a huge new documentary about the late Princess of Wales. This huge television project, already scheduled for intense filming, has been quietly set up for several months now. Meghan started dropping some very subtle, highly calculated hints about her role and her special access to Diana's classic wardrobe back in May, trying to test public opinion and see how the palace would react. But the response she got from both the British public and the royal family was not admiration, it was instant, deep and heavy anger. This fury is tied directly to recent history. After all, this is hardly the first time Meghan has tried to link herself to the image and memory of her late mother-in-law for commercial gain. Just before this whole jewellery fight started, Meghan launched a highly publicised fashion project featuring structured shirts and classic looks. Her promotional materials openly claimed these outfits were directly inspired by the effortless, timeless style of her late mother-in-law. The public reaction to that fashion line was incredibly hostile. Regular folks in Britain and seasoned royal experts alike saw the move as a really cheap, tasteless attempt to use a dead icon's style to boost Meghan's own struggling business ventures. Prince William was reportedly absolutely furious about the fashion line, seeing it as nothing more than a cheap way to use his mother's memory to sell clothes online. So when Meghan doubled down and demanded actual pieces of Diana's personal jewellery for a big Netflix-backed documentary, the palace saw it as the ultimate provocation. To William and his family, Meghan's urge to wear Diana's real jewellery on camera looks like a cheap publicity stunt. It seems designed to create a completely fake connection between herself and the beloved people's princess. It creates a really uncomfortable situation where a highly sacred family heirloom is basically treated as a simple TV prop to help boost a commercial business. That typical calculated vagueness that Prince Harry uses to hide their real plans vanishes completely when you look at Meghan's cold corporate drive. To her, those jewels are not just some sentimental family keepsakes. They are a crucial piece of branding visual currency she needs to keep up the illusion of royal status in an American market that is quickly getting bored of the Sussex story. The corporate dreams of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex recently ran straight into a brick wall, leading to a massive, unprecedented split with the maternal side of Harry's family. According to widespread reports filtering out through well-placed media circles, including deep investigations by major international outlets like New Idea magazine, Harry and Meghan had been quietly planning what they expected to be the absolute crowning achievement of their media empire. The couple had set their sights on making a massive multi-part blockbuster documentary series in a direct partnership with Netflix, carefully timed to dominate headlines around the world for the upcoming 30th anniversary of Princess Diana's tragic death. Their strategic plan for this project was absolutely massive. To push this project far beyond a typical documentary and get the massive ratings needed to make Netflix executives happy, Harry and Meghan knew they had to get exclusive, completely unprecedented access. They formally reached out to Harry's uncle, Earl Charles Spencer, asking for his official blessing and direct help. The Sussexes specifically asked for full access to the highly protected private family archives of the Spencer estate, along with exclusive rights to film commercially right inside Althorp House, the historic ancestral estate and the sacred final resting place where Princess Diana was eventually laid to rest. To Harry, this request felt safe because he believed they had a very solid emotional bond. Unlike his freezing relationship with the rest of the royal family, Harry had actually managed to keep a pretty warm and decent connection with his mother's side. Earl Charles Spencer had historically stayed fairly neutral in the ongoing royal family war. He had even opened the doors of Althorp to host Harry during a couple of his quiet, highly tense trips back to the United Kingdom. With that history in mind, the Sussexes just assumed the Spencer family would give them their ultimate seal of approval, offering the authentic British backdrop they desperately needed to boost their slipping royal image. Instead, they ran straight into a harsh rejection, a sudden and absolute lockdown that has sent shockwaves tearing through their whole production team. Sources inside the estate reveal that Earl Charles Spencer gave a highly passionate rejection, flatly turning down his nephew's request. But the Earl did not just say no. He went so far as to completely lock down the private family archives while putting a strict, absolute ban on any kind of commercial filming or media production by the Sussexes inside the gates of Althorp. The real reason behind this massive explosive rejection goes right to the core of the Spencer family's identity. Earl Charles Spencer felt incredibly insulted by the entire setup and the script direction of the proposed project. After taking a look at the early outlines, the Spencer family realised the documentary was not actually planned as a genuine. Instead of a balanced tribute to Princess Diana's life and her lasting legacy, the narrative was heavily manipulated to force painful parallels between Diana's past struggles and Meghan's modern-day grievances. The main goal here was clearly designed to paint Meghan as the natural successor to Diana's crown, using the late princess's memory to validate and fuel Meghan's endless public battle with the royal family. As a deeply protective guardian of his sister's memory, Charles Spencer found this kind of raw commercial exploitation absolutely disgusting. He completely refused to open up Althorp House, a quiet sanctuary of family grief and history, just to let it be turned into a cheap, highly profitable Hollywood filming set. The Earl's angry rejection has triggered an irreversible rift, opening up a massive permanent chasm between Prince Harry and his maternal uncle. Frankly, the absolute fallout from this bitter family clash cannot be overstated. By pushing Earl Charles Spencer away, Harry and Meghan have effectively destroyed their very last safe haven in the United Kingdom. Before this latest disaster, the Spencer family was the only powerful British institution left that was actually willing to help the exiled Duke. Now, with the heavy gates of Althorp firmly locked tight and the entire Spencer family standing firm against this commercialisation of Diana's memory, Harry finds himself entirely isolated from both sides of his own lineage. And for Meghan, this rejection has reportedly left her absolutely devastated and deeply wounded. The total collapse of this major Netflix project exposes a harsh truth: the Sussexes can no longer use the iconic Spencer name to prop up their commercial lifestyle brand. For Prince William, these endless attempts by the Sussexes to package, rebrand and sell off the memory of his late mother are the ultimate personal insult. Having spent his entire adult life guarding the legacy of his beloved mother, Princess Diana, with a quiet and fierce protectiveness, the Prince of Wales sees these endless documentary pitches as a direct, painful psychological assault. To William, the raw injustice of this situation is incredibly painful. Long before Harry had ever even laid eyes on Meghan Markle, William was already navigating the incredibly difficult and sensitive task of keeping his mother's memory alive inside a modern royal family. He realised from a very early age that the only real way to honour Diana was to shield her painful tragedy from any further commercial exploitation, letting her rest in peace and dignity while continuing her important work far away from the flashing cameras of Hollywood. The deep-seated tensions surrounding Diana's material legacy actually started long before the Sussexes ever left the family. Inside detailed accounts of royal history reveal that William was always incredibly cautious and protective when it came to his mother's private possessions. He famously demanded a very high level of security and control, making sure that the most famous pieces of Diana's private jewellery collection were locked away safely, almost as if he knew they might be misused down the road. So, when Harry and Meghan first started dating, William's early doubts had nothing to do with any personal dislike of Meghan herself, but came from a deep protective instinct to preserve the sacred history and private memory of his late mother. To see those very items demanded now as cheap visual props for a streaming giant's dramatic television show is the realisation of William's absolute worst nightmare. At its heart, the massive split between the two brothers comes down to their completely opposite views on grief and memory. William has always chosen a path of quiet, meaningful service. He almost never talks about his mother publicly, choosing instead to let his everyday actions prove his deep devotion. He actively fights for the exact same causes that Diana held dear, dedicating his powerful platform to tackling homelessness, taking the shame out of mental health struggles, and protecting vulnerable young children. He does all of this quietly, without flashy global media blitzes, and without demanding massive paydays for sharing his private thoughts. William honours Diana by actually continuing her mission, making sure her legacy is felt through real lasting change in society rather than manipulative commercial media projects. In complete contrast, the Sussex strategy has turned into a constant commercial exploitation of her name. Harry and Meghan have systematically woven Diana's name, her tragic past, and her image into almost every single major commercial project they have launched since walking away from royalty. From the shocking pages of his personal memoir Spare to the dramatic scenes of their massive Netflix docuseries, Diana has basically been used as the ultimate emotional cash cow. Instead of keeping her memory as a quiet, sacred bond for the family, the Sussexes have turned their late mother into a shield to block criticism and a weapon to slash at the royals. These non-stop, highly direct comparisons drawn between Meghan's press coverage and Diana's real historical battles are viewed by both the palace and the British public as a massive, deliberate distortion of history manufactured simply to generate easy public sympathy for monetary profit. This commercial exploitation has reached a critical breaking point with their proposed 30th anniversary documentary. To Prince William, the thought of his brother flying back to the United Kingdom to film a profitable TV project at their mother's final resting place is a sickening violation of a sacred line. It drags their deeply traumatized family history right back into the media spotlight, forcing the public to re-examine the most agonizing, painful moments of their childhood just to boost global streaming numbers. William does not see this as a tribute. He views it as the cold, heartless monetization of a shared tragedy executed by an exiled brother who has run completely out of ideas and is now raiding the family graveyard to fund his lifestyle. The massive gap between William's quiet respect and Harry's loud money-making antics has permanently destroyed any hope of reconciliation, making the future king more determined than ever to keep his wall of silence up. This rising sense of desperation behind Harry and Meghan's frantic moves back in the United Kingdom makes perfect sense when you look at how badly their brand is failing in America. Once you strip away the slick public relations spin and their polished social media photos, the cold, hard financial data reveals a brand in a complete nosedive. The public who initially welcomed the exiled couple with massive multi-million-dollar deals has completely cooled on the Sussex sob story. The initial novelty of their shiny California dream has entirely faded away, leaving the Duke and Duchess with a dying business empire, huge yearly bills to pay, and a complete lack of fresh ideas. The financial numbers show a very clear picture of total failure. The very foundation of their early Hollywood success, that historic $100 million deal they signed with Netflix, has been drastically gutted. What started as a massive development deal with guaranteed upfront cash has now shrunk down to a highly restrictive first-look agreement, which is a structural shift that brings in zero guaranteed corporate income and dumps all financial risk directly onto the Sussexes. People on the inside say the streaming giant is currently sitting on millions of dollars in completely dead projects from the Sussexes that never managed to find an audience. And to make matters worse, the public cancellation of their animated show and other lifestyle concepts has left their production pipeline completely empty. This Netflix downgrade follows the absolute collapse of their $25 million podcast partnership with Spotify. That messy exit was marked by brutal public call-outs from top executives who openly dismissed the couple as lazy grifters. Even the highly lucrative public speaking circuit, which used to pay the Duke up to $1 million for a single appearance, has now completely cratered, with their actual booking fees plummeting to almost nothing. Meanwhile, the staggering administrative and running costs of maintaining that massive Montecito estate, their expansive international public relations machine and their endless high court lawsuits continue to quietly burn through millions of dollars every single year. Meghan's much-hyped launch of her new American Riviera Orchard lifestyle brand has utterly failed to gain the kind of explosive commercial momentum she was clearly counting on, leaving her brand empire seriously bogged down by bureaucratic trademark hurdles and an increasingly sceptical public that has shown almost zero interest in buying her high-priced artisanal products. Staring down this harsh economic reality, Harry and Meghan have finally realised that their personal talents as content producers, writers, or lifestyle influencers simply are not enough to keep a massive global empire afloat. The American public has grown thoroughly exhausted by the endless loop of grievances and self-pity that fueled their early media output. The entertainment market has realised that without the prestige, the history, and the unique access of the British royal family, the Duke and Duchess are just ordinary celebrities floating in a saturated media swamp. The crown was always the actual product, and those titles were their only real currency. The very second they cut their working ties to Buckingham Palace, they stripped their entire commercial brand of the one single asset that ever made them valuable. Which is why their upcoming 7-day blitz on British soil is definitely not some sentimental homecoming or a quiet family visit. It is a cold, high-stakes business trip disguised as a family reunion. Their new strategy has shifted toward an aggressive campaign of re-royalisation. Both Harry and Meghan understand that the only possible way to rescue their dying American brand is to establish a fresh, visually undeniable connection directly to the British crown. They desperately need the international press to photograph them surrounded by the trappings of royalty walking through British streets, while demanding massive international attention right on the monarchy's own home turf. And the main weapon in this desperate marketing play is the highly calculated rollout of their children Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. For 4 long years, they have fiercely hidden their children away from the global media, using heavy pixelation and dark digital silhouettes to build a wall of total privacy. But over the last 3 months, we have witnessed a highly strategic, slowly escalating series of social media posts designed to systematically increase the public visibility of those kids. This steady shift from hidden shadows to highly recognisable public faces is a very deliberate build-up to their ultimate media event, parading Archie and Lilibet directly on British soil. The full reveal of a 7-year-old prince and a 5-year-old princess who sit 7th and 8th in the line of succession to the crown is easily the single most valuable piece of unused content the Sussexes still own. By pushing these children right in front of the International Press Corps this July, Harry and Meghan are creating an incredibly lucrative new media property. These crucial images of the kids on British soil, potentially meeting their grandfather the King for the first time in years, are designed to serve as the ultimate visual asset for future corporate pitches. They will deploy these photos in Netflix pitch decks to secure brand new reality shows, using them to anchor proposals for a second massive memoir, and splashing them across the covers of major celebrity magazines to prove they are still culturally relevant. It is a massive all-or-nothing gamble that exploits the innocence of their own children to fuel the financial engine of their fading commercial empire. Now, as this highly risky July visit draws closer, the growing conflict over this highly aggressive strategy is exposing some deep constitutional cracks in the modern British monarchy itself. The real crisis of this upcoming 7-day blitz does not sit inside the pages of gossip magazines or Hollywood contracts, but deep within the fundamental rules that govern the royal institution itself. The original Sandringham Agreement, hammered out by the late Queen Elizabeth II right after the couple first walked away, was specifically designed to protect the integrity of the state. It set up a clear, solid boundary between royals who sacrifice their private lives to serve the nation and those who choose to run their own independent commercial businesses. But by returning to the United Kingdom to stage a highly orchestrated, media-heavy fake royal tour, Harry and Meghan are basically ripping up that historic deal, exposing a massive generational rift right at the very top of the royal family. And the biggest institutional weakness of this moment lies entirely within the current occupant of the throne, King Charles III, who is currently carrying the immense physical burden of a serious cancer diagnosis, along with the deep emotional pain of a fractured family, which has become the exact vulnerability the Sussexes are pushing against. Charles is driven by the deeply human instincts of a father who fears he might be running out of time to reconcile with his younger son, and a grandfather who has been cruelly kept from having any real relationship with his grandchildren for 4 whole years. Because of this, the king has let his personal emotions completely cloud his constitutional judgment. His unilateral decision to bypass royal protocol, using his own private money to fund their private armed security, and throwing open the doors of a royal residence to an exiled couple who have spent 6 years systematically attacking his family, represents a very dangerous institutional retreat. The king is extending a massive olive branch, but in doing so he is quietly chipping away at the crown's moral authority. This royal compromise is exactly what has sparked the deep burning anger of Thun von William. The Prince of Wales does not just see his brother's return as a personal annoyance, he views it as a structural threat to the legitimacy of the throne he is destined to inherit. Since the Sussex departure, William has spent years tightening the rules of the institution, building a reputation for genuine transparency, accountability and modern reform, all while supporting his father and protecting his wife through her own painful, grueling health battles. He has played by the rules, respected the boundaries, and kept a deeply dignified absolute silence in public. To William, his father's decision to fund Harry's big return without demanding a full public apology is an act of deep institutional injustice. It sets an incredibly dangerous precedent, showing the world that any royal can launch a years-long media war against their own family cash in on their titles in Hollywood, and then simply come back to use royal perks for commercial gain whenever their corporate cash runs dry. This massive split between the king's soft heart and the heir's rock-hard resolve has set the stage for a truly explosive, historic constitutional endgame. William's total professional silence before the global press corps remains his absolute most powerful weapon. He knows that the monarchy simply cannot survive if it becomes a player in a Hollywood reality television narrative. By refusing to engage, by refusing to offer even one word of comment on his brother's provocative choice of Villa Park or his sister-in-law's aggressive jewellery, demands William is drawing a clear, hard line in the sand. He is sending a message to the British public and the global corporate bosses watching this drama unfold. The real future of the crown lies in steady, quiet, unglamorous public service, not in the highly monetized, hyper-commercialized, celebrity-focused circus currently being staged by the Sussexes. The final massive outcome of this high-stakes 7-day gamble will echo far beyond the summer of 2026. If Harry and Meghan succeed in capturing the exact visual assets they need, if they manage to project an image of royal belonging parading their kids across British soil to secure a highly publicised meeting with the king, they will have successfully revived their dying American brand. They will head back to California with a fresh boost of royal prestige, fully ready to sign the next multi-million-dollar streaming deal and fuel another endless cycle of monetized royal drama. But if this big investment fails and the British public delivers a savage, unyielding wave of cold hostility on the streets of Birmingham, and if the global press corps stays focused on the sheer commercial desperation driving the entire event, and if the king stands firm behind closed doors, absolutely refusing to grant those public family photos the Sussexes so desperately require, then the last card in the Sussex hand will have been played and lost. The narrative will permanently shift from a triumphant royal return to a final, completely irreversible public rejection. The historic institution of the monarchy will continue to endure, anchored by the quiet, professional dedication of Thun von William, while the highly ambitious commercialised Sussex project will have finally run completely out of road,